podcast is intended for mature audiences. The views and opinions expressed are those of the panelists and do not reflect in any way those of the podcast partners, sponsors, or affiliates. Enjoy.
Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and you're listening to the Voice of the People. Let's get ready for Boxing Voice.
ThaBoxingvoice.com.
You need that fear.
All I'm trying to do is make a stand for something that I truly believe is right. I truly believe is right. I don't want to be like you. Come on, man. I'm the face of boxing. I'm the cash cow. I hold the record with you.
My drop, I know my drop, I know my situation. I want to
ThaBoxingvoice production.
But it's gonna be very difficult for both of us.
ThaBoxingvoice.com.
All right. Welcome back as we attempt to do this yet again. I'm going to get Bob Arum on, right? So let's see if this works this time, right? I mean, he said call him now. So I'm going to call the Bob father now. So I'll give you guys a quick little, some music to listen to while I escape.
ThaBoxingvoice.com. All the guys want, I want what Mayweather got. I want what Mayweather got. You didn't bust your ass like Mayweather. I was trying to fight every fighter. I sacrificed a lot to get to where I got you.
What do you bring to the table?
Let's get this on. Let's do it. Well, it's like this. Wait.
All right, that's it. Hold on. Bernard, everybody calm down.
Man, you know how these bitches is in the sport. Total disrespect.
All right. Bob, you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Let me just adjust my levels here. Okay. Well, first and foremost, thank you, obviously, for taking out the time and getting back to me and giving us an opportunity to interview you. A lot of topics I wanted to touch on, so we'll just start down the list and, whatever you have time to get to, you can. Lomachenko, Rigondeaux. When are we going to get an official press conference for Lomachenko, Rigondeaux, and is it going to be multiple cities or because, the fight was announced, but no official press conference as of yet?
Official press conference will be the week of the fight. I'm not going to fly each guy into New York to have a press conference. What for? Everybody's talking about it. It's all sold. So we'll have a press conference Thursday before the fight.
Well, I get you. It's just not common practice, right? Normally, there's a press conference to announce the fight.
Well, wait a second. Wait a second. Common practice doesn't necessarily mean that it makes any sense. Right now, the best way to communicate is with social media. We have stuff going out all the time on Twitter, on Instagram, and when we have the fighters talking, we'll do a conference call for everybody. But the idea that you have to have these two guys in a room together 2 months before a fight, man, that makes no fucking sense.
All right. Well, it's just a fight that I feel that the fight fans have been asking for. So I don't know. I guess build on that.
You understand two football teams that are facing each other in a very anticipated match like the Rose Bowl or like the national championships. They don't get together for press conference until right before the game. Boxing has been, in my opinion, making a stupid mistake, having these press conferences so far in advance of the actual fight.
But Bob, you were infamous for the word marinating in fights, and isn't that part of marination? Getting a little bit of the, feel for the fight out there with the public, and then coming back to it on fight week, building upon that. No,
but yeah, you're absolutely. Yeah, but you don't do it having a stupid press conference 2 months before. You do it on social media, and you give the fighters the opportunity to say what they want to say on social media. Man, we're living in a new era. We not gonna do shit the way we did before.
Well, you said it, social media, and I seen the Top Rank put out a promo, and it was basically saying, Rigondeaux, you asked for it, you got it. Was Rigondeaux being told you wanted this, you got it, or was it the public being told you wanted this, you got it? What exactly was the message in that social media promo that Top Rank put out?
That Rigondeaux has been talking about fighting Lomachenko, and when we went to his promoter and offered the fight, they were very cooperative and worked with us, and we made the fight. So that's what I said. Rigondeaux, you wanted it, you got it.
And what is your honest opinion on that fight? Think you're breaking up there, Bob.
Lomachenko in my mind is really special, and so is Rigondeaux. But I like my guy Lomachenko in the fight.
All right. Well, let's transition to Terence Crawford while we still have time. Last Saturday, HBO were having their telecast, and they mentioned Terence Crawford quite a lot, and the possibilities or not being able to fight any of those Al Haymon fighters. And I just thought to myself, man, I really got to talk to Bob. Is Terence Crawford still in the HBO business, or is Terence Crawford going to be on ESPN? Why is Jim Lampley and Max Kellerman discussing welterweight fights about Terence Crawford? So since I have you, what is the future of Terence Crawford?
He will be an ESPN fighter. He will fight exclusively on ESPN. He will hopefully fight the winner of Horn and Corcoran, which is taking place in December. And I disagree completely that we won't be able to make matches in the future with fighters that are managed by Al, such as Thurman and Spence. We certainly will make those matches.
Wow, the public is going to be very happy to hear that, because Terence Crawford and Danny Garcia is a fight that, like you said, this is a new era, and that fight's been building on social media with the back and forth between Terence Crawford and Danny Garcia's father.
I didn't mention Garcia, but certainly he would figure in that equation as well.
Oh yeah, because they have some backstory. Those guys have about 3 fights in the amateurs. Danny Garcia and Terence Crawford. But that is great news. So the future for Crawford is the winner of Jeff Horn and Gary Cochran. And will Terence Crawford have to travel to Australia if Jeff Horn wins the Gary Cochran fight?
Depends on where the best deal can be made for everybody. I mean, Australia is not like a third world country. It's a first world country. Beautiful people, great venues, and the officials will all be neutral officials appointed by the WBO. But that is, again, not decided. The fight could be in Brisbane. It could be in Las Vegas. Could be in Nebraska. We'll all sit there. Or it could be in London if Corcoran wins.
Well, the reason that I ask is because obviously Jeff Horn had a headline out there saying that Keith Thurman is irrelevant. And if he wanted to fight him, he would have to fight him in Brisbane for those 2 titles. So I wanted to obviously get your thoughts on that too. Is that something that you would entertain?
No. To entertain what?
Unification with Keith Thurman and the other 2 welterweight titles versus Jeff Horn or the winner?
Well, that's up to if Jeff wins out, then, you know, I'll sit with Jeff and we'll figure it out. If Terence wins, then I'll sit with Terence and we'll figure it out. But, you know, Thurman's a hell of a fighter. And to put Crawford, if he beats Horn, in with Thurman is a fight that the people will love.
Bob, speaking of fight that the people will love, obviously you have a piece of the puzzle now in the heavyweight division with Joseph Parker. But I want to get your opinion on this heavyweight landscape as a promoter with the most knowledge, right? You are the guy that's been around the longest, been doing this the longest. You've promoted, like your website says, from Ali to Manny Pacquiao. And we have a heavyweight fight brewing between Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder seems to have it made up in his mind that this fight is big now and it can do possibly 2 million pay-per-views now. Eddie Hearn, on the other hand, believes that this fight only does 500 U.S. pay-per-views and it's far too soon to even be talking about it. What is your opinion on the outside looking in, knowing that you have Joseph Parker, a piece of the puzzle as well?
Well, you know, I'm a big Joshua fan. I think he's a terrific heavyweight. Wilder has beaten everybody that's put in front of him. I think that Eddie is downplaying the fight on pay-per-view in the United States.
Probably lost you again there. Looks like you have a bad connection. Are you there, Bob?
Yeah. Yes. I think.
Bob, you might want to move around just a bit. We've seemed to completely lost you, but the call has not dropped, so you may be connected still.
Can you hear me better now?
I hear you way better now.
Okay, good.
So you were.
Well, no, I said that.
Yes.
I think the fight does a lot better than 500,000 buys. Eddie thinks it doesn't. He's entitled to his opinion. I have an opinion. I'm not sure that it's going to do more, but I really think it will. I think it's a fight. It's a very interesting fight. That's a fight that I'd be happy to pay to see.
And what about your guy, Joseph Parker? Obviously, you have a few heavyweights with the top-ranked stable. Joseph Parker, a WBO champion. You have Brian Jennings, newly signed, James Prince fighter. And you also have Andy Ruiz Jr., who most recently seems to be interested in the Chris Arreola fight. Where do your 3 heavyweights lie in this heavyweight landscape, Bob?
Well, I think I talked to David Higgins, who's our co-promoter with Joseph Parker, New Zealand guy, and he wants Parker to fight early next year in New Zealand, and then in the spring or summer, I would bring Parker over to the United States to do a major fight for him against an American contender. And hopefully it'll be Brian Jennings.
Now, back to Eddie Hearn. He seems to think that he can entice Joseph Parker into a unification in February. Would that be in the plans for you?
No, that's not going to happen. That is not going to happen. I mean, I respect Eddie. It is not going to happen. I talked to Higgins a couple of days ago, and that's not the plan for Parker.
Now, Bob, I gotta ask just a little more, simply because Anthony Joshua seems to be the cash cow in that division. I mean, we're talking 20 million with Vladimir Klitschko. Pulev was rumored to get over 5 million for this mandatory fight. Why would you not want to push your fighter in the biggest payday?
Because, frankly, whatever you say, that kind of money and that kind of opportunity hasn't been offered.
Okay, understandable.
I mean, I don't know where it just hasn't been offered. Yeah, money talks. I mean, if Eddie came up with a big number for that fight, well, then we would revise our thinking. No question about that.
And that stands for any heavyweight trying to get a unification, because I was just in Alabama last week with Deontay Wilder, and he said that, they had spoke, and obviously the world seen Joseph Parker at the last Deontay Wilder fight versus Gerald Washington, and it was rumored that there was going to be an announcement of the unification, but that never took place. Is that a road that you would go down?
Not really, because, there isn't that much money in that fight. For various reasons, the guy who brings the most money to the table is by far Anthony Joshua, because of the way he draws in England. Put 90,000 in Wembley to fight Klitschko, and does big pay-per-view numbers in England. No other heavyweight has demonstrated that he can produce that kind of revenue other than Joshua.
So is the plan to make Joseph at least a U.S. equivalent by taking him to New Zealand, bringing him back here versus Brian Jennings?
Yes, if he's successful, then, and Anthony Joshua is looking for a damn for the end of the year, that's a fight we would certainly be interested in.
So it's about building it up. No different than what Eddie Hearn is saying needs to be done with the Wilder fight. Building it up a little more, raising Joseph Parker's profile, maybe?
That is absolutely correct. Eddie Hearn is a terrific promoter, and people should listen to what he has to say.
Well, let's shift over to someone that we're interested in here at TBV is Calixto Madera, young prospect that you have signed out of Northern California over there, really making some noise, knocking guys out left and right, sparring with Andre Ward when Andre Ward was getting ready for Sergey Kovalev, sparring with Triple G, sparring with David Benavidez. This young kid that you has been making some noise, at least for us here on TBV. We're keeping our eye open. So what's next for Calixto? And is there a long-term plan for him?
Well, you'd have to talk to my matchmakers on that. Right now they're trying to, as we do with all our prospects, to develop their careers along the line. When the guy is ready for major fights, then that's when I'll take over. But at this point, it's a little premature, and you'd rather talk to Bruce Trampler or Brad Goodman. They have it laid out for the next 6 months at least.
Well, if that is the process at Top Rank, well, then a name that must have came across your desk is the November 11th card, Jose Ramirez in Fresno. He's going to have 15,000 people when he fights for a vacant title versus another Top Rank prospect, Mike Reed. Any thoughts on that matchup?
Yeah, we hope to have the winner of that fight, whether it's Mike or Jose, fight for the vacant WBC junior welterweight title against Don King's fighter, and we look forward to that. But for now, Ramirez and Reed, a terrific fight. We're practically all sold out in Fresno, all 15,000 seats. So I'm very excited for November 11th.
Is that also going to be an ESPN card, Bob?
Yeah, my cards are on ESPN. Just like we had Murata. I was over in Japan, and he fought
at 7
in
a.m.
Japan on Sunday night, it was 7 a.m. in the United States, and 200,000 people watched it at that hour. Remember, it was only 4:15 in California, but we still had 230,000. And then when they did the delay on ESPN2 that evening, we did 150,000 more. So, hey, that's pretty damn good for a card that came from Japan. We did almost 400,000 people watched it.
Amazing, Bob. I'm just happy to see you guys implementing the social media and the internet and playbacks the way that you are now. You know, you guys have been doing a phenomenal job as well with Top Rank live streams and getting us informed with all the undercard fighters. Other promoters need to, you know, follow suit and give us all those undercards the way that you guys stream them on Top Rank Live. We truly appreciate that. So let's shift a little bit to
that's because I'm a young promoter and they're old people.
Bob, you're definitely young at heart for sure, man. And you're keeping up with these guys without a doubt, man. I mean, the company is thriving. You have a lot of young talent and a lot of young champions, which brings me to either of the two or the three that you want to talk about, whether it's, you know, Jesse Magdaleno first, Oscar Valdez next, or Gilberto Ramirez, and even Jesse Hart that put up a valiant fight versus Gilberto Ramirez. What's the plan for these guys, Bob?
Well, Jesse's my man, and we're going to bring Jesse back maybe as early as February 3rd in Las Vegas. Ramirez is going to defend his title on February 3rd on ESPN. And in Las Vegas, it's the night before the Super Bowl. And then May 12th, we're bringing Ramirez back to his hometown, Mazatlan, which is a fantastic, beautiful city in Mexico. Great beaches and everything. I was there 2 weeks ago, and Ramirez, there will be a big event when Ramirez comes back and defends his title in Mazatlan. And then finally, we hope to have Ramirez fight this very, very good super middleweight from Australia and have him go to Australia to fight. So he has a big card. He has 3 tentatively planned fights for next year, and we may even get a 4th. As far as Oscar Valdez, like
Bob, let me get a counter question in there on the Ramirez before you switch to Valdez. It seems like you have a full plan laid out for Ramirez, and I just want to ask you a little curveball here and see, would that be interesting for a promoter of your sort that's been in it this long? The name Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., is that a name that you think can no longer produce anything in boxing, or do you think that we could possibly see a Ramirez, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., or after Chavez's performance with Canelo, is it not worth going down that street?
About that, I'm a good friend of Julio Sr. Greatest Mexican fighter of all time, but he's a close friend. I don't want to say anything about his son.
So that is definitely not a fight that you would consider. No problem. So let's talk about Valdez. You were saying?
I was saying Valdez, we'd like him to fight in Mexico, maybe Mexico City. He's a 2-time Mexican Olympian. And we have ambitious plans for Oscar. Want him also to fight 3 times next year. And he's a terrific young man. I think he's a great attraction. But we got to get him in Mexico. The Mexican people are demanding to do at least 1 fight next year in Mexico.
Bob, I gotta ask, how is it that you are able to have Valdez in these fights and he doesn't really get any backlash from the fans or the media? No one is rushing to see him unify in his division. Is it because of his spectacular performances? I mean, he is wiping these guys out. I mean, the last fight was we had a bit of a scare. Obviously, he went down, but, you know, predominantly he's dominant in these fights, but no one is calling him out to fight like a Leo or a Frampton or a Russell or a Mars. Selby, I mean,
Frampton's a fight that is on our drawing board for next year, no question about that. And as far as Santa Cruz and Maris, they have business against each other. And, you know, I mean, I don't think either of them are anxious to fight Valdez before they fight each other. And certainly we'd be interested in fighting.
Is a Scott Quigg a name that you would entertain in the meantime? Or has that name lost its value?
I'm not going to say.
Oh, you're not going to say.
I just don't know enough about him. Frankly, I really can't answer that.
No
the guy
problem.
that would be looking to fight is Frampton.
All right. And what could you tell me about Jesse Magdaleno's injury and return?
The hand is in bad shape. And bruised the hand. Hopefully we get him back in February or March. We talked with Frank Espinosa, his manager, and he said he has to just lay off for a couple of months.
All right. Well, that was a quick update. Let's go back to Ryota Marotta, this middleweight that you're promoting. Just won a version of the WBA title. What is the outlook for him? Because obviously having that title, all roads lead to Triple G at the 160-pound division, but we all know he's going to be waiting for Canelo.
That is correct. That is correct. Marotta just won the title in Japan. 30 million people in Japan watched the fight. Remember, there's 100 million people, more or less, in Japan, and 30 million, 30% of the population watched the fight. It was the highest most watched program on Japanese television for the year. So we're going to bring him back in Japan. Honda-san, my partner, we're going to get him a good opponent. And then in the summer, I'm bringing him to the United States to defend his title in the United States. And if he's successful in those two fights, I've talked to Tom Loeffler, and we would like in the fall or winter of next year to fight Triple G.
Wow. That's impressive, Bob. I like that plan. I want to ask, why? It's a two-part question. I guess we'll start with the first part. Why is it that it's only Bob Arum that's fighting in different countries? I mean, Brisbane, you had Zhu Shiming in another country. Now you're doing Ramota. You're trying to take Ramirez to Mexico. How is it that you're finding the ability to make this work?
Because I studied geography in school, and I guess these other promoters didn't. I mean, this is a wonderful world, and there are fans all over the world, and there are fans that want to see major boxing, not just on television, but in person. There are great fans in Japan. There are great fans in Australia. There are great fans in the Mideast. There are great fans in China. Why limit yourself to one country?
Is there no money in it for you, Bob? If you, for instance, if you were able to put together a package, because you did Thriller in Manila, so it's like, why can't Bob Arum go to Eddie Hearn and Al Heyman and say, hey, look, I got X country, X network. and this is the package for Wilder versus Joshua. Is that ever a possibility, or does can Bob Arum only promote fighters that are signed to him? Can you put together packages like that?
Yeah, but our primary obligation is the fighters who have signed with us. Why would I go to Eddie Hearn and say, look, give me your fighter, Joshua, to put in with Wilder. I'll put it in. And he'd say, why? I can make more money doing it myself, which he can. I can't make the kind of money for a Wilder Joshua fight outside of England than Eddie Hearn can. I mean, that's a fool's errand, and I'm not a fool. So certain fights I can move to Australia, to Japan, to the Mideast, and make more money than I can in America and anyplace else. But certain fights, like with certain fighters, like Anthony Joshua, I mean, the most money you can make with him is in the UK. Just like if I went to Oscar De La Hoya, my old fighter, and said, give me Canelo, I'll take him out of the country, out of the U.S., and I'll make money for him. Oscar would look at me and says, Bob, you've lost your mind, because Canelo is such a big draw among Hispanics, particularly in the United States. So I'm not going to go on fool's errands, right?
Got it. Answering the questions for the public, Bob. So Mike Alvarado's making a comeback, and you guys are still working with him. What is
a nice boy. He got his life in order. He's off the bad shit, and he's a entertaining fighter.
Are we going to see any Denver fights again? I mean, I remember that January 2015.
That's great. I love Denver because Todd is the president of the company, has a home in Aspen. So, yeah, we'd love Aspen's a very short trip to Denver. So, yeah, I mean, I'd love to do a fight in Denver. They're great fight fans. We've done fights for years in Denver, and we may very well come do a fight. They have a lot of good arenas in Denver sometime next year.
Do you think Alvarado's a few fights from a headliner in his hometown again, or does he still have to keep building before we could get back to those days?
I think he has to keep building. He disappointed a lot of people because he failed on the big stage. I think not because he lacked ability, but because of his lifestyle. Now that he's turned it around, I think he has to prove to the public that he's serious and he's back as a top contender.
And last but not least, Michael Conlon, he's going to be on the December 9th in New York City. Is that also the Rigondeaux and Lomachenko card, correct?
That is correct. He'll be on the telecast. Shakur Stevenson will be on the telecast. And we have a great featherweight match on the telecast with Christopher Diaz. So I'm looking forward to a packed card. Michaela Mayer is on the card. That card will follow the Heisman Trophy ceremony on ESPN, and so we'll have a tremendous audience for that card.
Perfect for those rising stars that you've signed. You brought up Shakur Stevens
right, exactly.
You brought up Shakur Stevens I
love Shakur.
It lit a light bulb in my head.
He's terrific. Shakur is a terrific young man. He's very ambitious, and he's been bugging me for weeks now. He wants to go to Oxnard, California, to spar with Lomachenko for the experience, and we're going to arrange that in the next week or so.
Wow. You going to allow any media in there?
don't know. I really don't know. All I know is James Prince was in my office today, and he's looking forward to it. We'll see about that.
Well, speaking of Prince and Shakur, I got to ask before I let you go, and speaking of let go, did you not try to entice Andre Ward to sign to Top Rank once he was freed up from that Rock Nation issue right before he retired, or were you not interested?
He's never been free. He's never been freed up from the Rock Nation. They've done a great. They paid him a lot of money, and they promoted him in big fights. He's still under contract to them, and we would never interfere with their contract.
Oh.
I'm a big Andre Ward fan, both as a fighter and as a person, and I wish him luck in retirement.
Okay, so it was just the HBO contract that was up for him. But well, anyway, Bob, I don't want to take any more of your time. Thank you so much.
That is correct. That is correct.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
I hope I gave you enough tonight.
Oh, you definitely gave me enough, man. I look forward to talking again.
Good.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, good talking to you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gents. We actually got it done. The Bob Father came on the line, and we spoke. So how long were we on there, guys? 36 minutes of the Bob. Oh, man, look at all these questions. Ask him about Bud. I mean, I did ask him some Bud stuff. Yeah. I mean, but see, it's difficult when you're alone, right? You got to do everything at once. That's why we needed Matsky. Then Enrique hit me up late, but he's not going to be able to help on the back end. But I'm going to get and cut out. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I don't know, man. I don't know if I should make it public. I'm starting to think. I've been telling Matt this for a while. Let's do these interviews on Patreon and just leave them there. You know what I mean? Just for you guys only. But he usually wants to make them public, you know, to entice people, bring them in. I don't know, whatever. I'm going to cut out. You know where to find me. NES GTO. Gotta go.